Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a tactics talk, and no, it's not really a tactics talk. It's a new sheriff in town talk. Wargaming has dropped an article called "Updated Rules and Violations Policy 2022." Let's dive into this one. This is a subject that comes up a lot on the forums, on Coffee Talk, all through gaming really, but we're going to talk specifically World of Tanks here, which is things like people being a-holes in the game, right? In terms of World of Tanks, it's blocking, it's killing themselves, suiciding, drowning, it's physics abuse, it's chat abuse, all of the things where people are naughty. The rules for the naughty people. Now, most of you, I would dare say 99% of you, never interact with this system in any way, shape, or form. Maybe it's a little bit higher in terms of people who might make a report. There's an automated system, World of Tanks, which is not very well defined. And now there's this system. We're going to talk a little bit about what I know, what I think I know, and what can't be known, and what we don't know. There's a difference between what we don't know and can't be known as well. We're going to dive into this thing. It is here on the main page if you want to read it for yourself. It's not a very long read. Wargaming, I'm not going to read the whole thing, all right? Don't get crazy. Wargaming is committed to providing all players with a positive gaming experience, and a key part of that is how we handle our rules and what happens when they are violated. They want a clean and safe environment where you can have fun. Here's our new policy. So the old policy and the new policy are not very different. Some of the terms have changed a little bit. We'll get into that. But basically, in the old system, you would have strikes. There's the chat side. Let's break this down a little bit more. There's the chat side, and there's kind of the physics, gaming, abuse side. Slightly different between those two. They've kind of broken those out and explained. And there's two levels of badness, of baddie badness. All right, so you can either be a minor criminal or a major criminal. you got your felons and your misdemeanors. All right, your felonies and your misdemeanors. So let's just dive into it. Let's just dive in. New policy goes into effect March 23rd, which is about 6 days from making this video. It even has a time. Okay, so at 0900 Central. By the way, can we just go off on a tangent? In America, if that bill passes, we will no longer have to do daylight savings time. I'm just throwing that out there, all right? And it will just be CT, Central Time. Isn't there another CT already? We'll have to change that maybe. Really what that should say is CST or CDT. Another tangent, the timing thing. Unless it actually means Central. I don't know. It must be US because there's an East and a Central and a Pacific. They always leave Mountain out. Why do they leave? Poor Mountain Time guys and gals. Why they get no love from Wargaming? Did you know there's actually another time zone sandwiched in between Central and Pacific? I'm just chucking that out there for you. You'll note that by the fact that you have 0700 and you're missing the number between 7 and 9. That would be 0800 and it would be Mountain Time. Is that because there's only like 10 customers in Mountain Time? All right. Where were we? Oh, it's going to start on the 23rd. All right. This is the important part. This is the important part. As we roll out the updates to our policy, we'll wipe the slate clean for every Wargaming customer with an active account. Any prior in-game sanctions, chat violations, or forum warnings will no longer count against you. I'm pretty excited because I actually have a forum warning point from a while back, a long time ago. Got into it just a little bit. I was a little more energetic. Let me say that. Not energetic. Edgy, I guess, maybe. Mean, angry, however you want to say it. However, permanent bans are not eligible. So if you are permanently banned, this is not going to be an amnesty. You're not back, baby. You're permanently banned, you're still gone. I think that's good. Sort of. And we'll talk about why. All right, new policy. All players not currently permabanned start fresh. Got it. Old strikes forgiven. Strikes are replaced by an internal system called relapses. I don't know why I don't know why she swallowed the fly. It always makes me laugh when they change the terminology. When I say they, I mean any corporation or group who's trying to reorganize stuff. They always change the terminology as if that's very, very important. They could have kept strikes. I suppose maybe it helps because then any other older articles referencing strikes are now, you can say, oh, that's an old article. It says strikes. They're now relapses. That's, in any event, they're called relapses. Even the first one, I guess, is a relapse. You've relapsed from, I mean, what are you, an addict or something? This is your first relapse. I didn't even know I was addicted. Well, you play World of Tanks, so you're clearly addicted. Good point. Good point. Each time a player relapses and commits another violation, additional ban time is added. Generally, this is ban time with the option and ability, if you really desire, to get yourself permanently banned, which I think has always been a possibility, but is now spelled out right here. Relapse points do not expire and will continue to count up. Now, this is one of those I'm not sure here. One of those I don't know. We'll get into that why in just a minute, but they do not expire. So you can have as many relapse points as you can build up, kind of. See the following table. Oh, good, we have a table. And now we can really break down what's doing what to who. All right, so maybe we probably want to have this a little larger here. Let's just blow this bad boy up here. All right. I've had complaints that people can't read it. Put your binoculars on, my friends. Put your binoculars on. Okay. We have two kinds of chat violations, minor and major. So you've got your felony and your misdemeanor. Or in the proper order, misdemeanor and felony. This is always a problem online. I just said the most obvious thing to everyone who's watching this because most of you are veterans of the online nation, right? The internet, online highway, web, the web away. So you get it. Everybody gets it. People are naughty, right? There's anonymity, so you feel like a lot of times you can just put people on blast, say things you wouldn't necessarily say to their face, threaten them with things you wouldn't say to their face. Especially if you then apply the logic of physical size and who the individual is. So you get a lot of that, right? You get a lot of that. So companies have to have rules. Otherwise, they just open it up for all kinds of crazy abuse. And if it gets bad enough, you lose customers. So, the bottom line with this whole thing is wargaming has to have some kind of rules to keep things more or less on an even keel. And they're worried about their bottom line. All right, so they're not going to willy-nilly just ban people for the smallest infraction, although you don't know that. We'll get into that in a little while later, because it could happen. You also don't want it to be the Wild West and have your game known for all kinds of badness, right? All kinds of badness. And I won't throw out the buzzwords. I'll try to stay away from as many of those as possible. I'm also going to try to stay away from the politics. I will say this, and I may mention it again in regards to one thing. I will say this about some of the current politics and dealing with stuff like this, is it really is creeping into everything, to include gaming. And that is really unfortunate. And that's the only thing I'll say right there. Because next thing I know, I'll be banned. All right. Isn't it a shame that in the modern age, people are worried about speaking their mind? That is a shame. All right. Let's try to neck this down just to World of Tanks, because I'm going to give you some of the essay on what these are and what the possibilities are. As I said, most of you will not interact with this very much. And those that do will probably interact on the side of sending in complaints. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well, because I don't think that's changed a whole bunch. And there's not a lot of info on it either. All right, so minor chat violations. They are violations include. That should probably say include but are not, but this is not a comprehensive list. Let me get into another tangent. There was a fairly good debate, and it wasn't necessarily a debate against, but it was a talking about this on a Discord channel that I belong to. And it was very good. And one point was, hey, this is not very specific. True. Then the counterpoint was, well, the company has to leave it not very specific, so they have wiggle room. Now you can see the danger there, right? It's not specific enough so a gamer can look at it and go, well, I'm a gamer, I like rule sets, I like to know what the rules of the game are when I play it. So this is not very specific. At the same time, the company needs to leave some wiggle room in case a player finds a way around something, which they will. They absolutely will. I'm not saying either one's the best case, and it's always going to be something in the middle of all that, honestly. So that brings us to violations including profanity, insults, minor harassment. Profanity. Is FFS, for F's sake, profanity? Is STFU profanity? Could I argue that the F is frick or frack or something? When I grew up in Utah, the Mormon kids I grew up with were professionals at finding words that meant the F word or the S word or whatever that weren't that word. Professionals at it. So, I don't know. That's hard to define. Also, too, and in addition to, this is a fun little exercise that I did because I started thinking about profanity and I said, well, aren't there a lot of words in other languages that sound like profanity in English? Or English words that sound like profanity in other languages? Or terms or ideas that are profane in other regions? Well, yes. Here's some fun ones. I liked the seal. Look at the little baby seal just hanging out right there. Bra means good in Swedish. And I won't say these because I don't want to get banned, but you can see it. KLIT means dune in Danish. Probably not pronounced exactly the same. Right? Slight different pronunciation. This is one, Phuc. I believe it's pronounced Phuc or something like that. Means happy or luck in Vietnamese, and obviously it sounds a lot like something else, and it might actually be pronounced the same way. But you get the idea. There's plenty of words like that. So if I'm an enterprising rule breaker and I want to skirt the rules, do I then throw down some of these words, using them in place of, but obviously for, the profane words? Then the question becomes, who is the interpreter? Well, wargaming is the interpreter. And ultimately, this is not a free speech argument because it's a private company. And if they wanted to make the word it, like the Knights of Ni, don't say it, you know? Or consequently, after you gather enough shrubberies in the game, make you have to say the word Ni, they can, right? Again, it goes back to the bottom line. If it's annoying enough, people leave, they vote with their feet, blah, blah, blah. So it's just one of those things, and I think this has been here the whole time. Insults. Well, that's even more nebulous than profanity. If I tell someone they're bad, is that an insult? Probably, yeah. So if I say something like, this is a terrible deployment, or thanks for deploying poorly, or any of those things, is that an insult? Yeah, could be. The eye of the beholder, right? Is it the eye of the beholder of the person you insulted? It is in terms of them actually writing up a report. Then it goes to who? Nobody knows. Somebody. And somebody determines and uses the lens of their ideology and their thoughts and their culture and everything else. And there you have it. Minor harassment. What is minor harassment? I'm sorry. It just came to me that's a fairly unfortunate term. Okay, so yeah, I don't know, man. Minor harassment. So I bump somebody, or I clip them, or I'm driving too close by them, they stop to shoot, and I bump them. Obviously, the verbal. I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself into the game violations. We're talking about chat violations, so that's sorry, I went off onto a tangent there a little bit. But anyway, minor harassment. What do you get? Each new violation adds 1 day ban time. Never result in a permanent ban. What I don't understand about this is it's a 1 day chat ban. Each new violation adds +1 to ban time. All right, so that seems to indicate that the next one's a 2, and then a 3, and then a 4, and then a 5 day ban, and you see the process there. There's no permanent ban. Never result in a permanent ban. Now, you could get yourself up. You get 30 of these bad boys and, you get a 30-day ban. I mean, there's people who don't care about that. They'll just come back to the game and do it again and laugh that they have a 31-day ban. So kind of an odd system in terms of what happens to you. Let's get to the major chat violations. 15-day chat ban. Well, now we're getting serious. We're getting to the felonies here, all right? Extreme hate speech, harassment, threats of violence. All right. This term, let's just start with hate speech, because I don't know why we had to add the adjective extreme. That indicates there's regular hate speech, which is not covered. I'm laughing, but it's not funny. It isn't. This is part of what I talked about earlier about the politics part. I'm just going to leave it at that. But extreme hate speech. Extreme. Wow. Okay. Who's going to define that? Now, I'm not interested in typing stuff down and trying to find out the limits of this. My plan with this whole thing is to not interact with it at all. And I think it's obvious to anybody how you do that. Right? You just act like a civil person. That's pretty much as easy as it ever gets. Some people can't do that. And then we get these weird definitions. And then they creep into more and more things that you may not have thought were extreme. And then you're banned. That's my point. Harassment. I like the semicolon, which is interesting. That means, in English anyway, that these two are similar things. So this, again, is bordering on the politics part. The extreme hate speech and harassment, whatever the hell harassment is. What's the difference between extreme harassment and minor harassment? I don't know. Are equatable to threats of violence. Now, threats of violence is its own thing, which I happen to agree that should get you a ban. But they are apparently the same or similar enough that we can use a semicolon right there. Is that parsing the use of whatever those things are, commas and all that crap? CRS just hit me. Maybe. Punctuation. Is that parsing punctuation a little too much? Maybe. I don't think so, though. I don't think so. More than two get you a permanent ban. So there's not a lot of wiggle room for being a major arse hat, right? If you go in there and start doing the easy examples are things like being anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim. Ideally, you should get it for being anti other things that tend to be able to be insulted at will, but you get my point, right? You get my point. Two of those and you are gone. So you get a 15-day, and then the second one, see ya. Okay. I do, in general, agree with that. My rule on, I'm kind of getting a little more in the esoteric piece when I'm asking the questions. My rule on my Twitch channel is if you can't act civil, you'll know immediately because you're banned. I just don't mess around with it. I just don't mess around with it. Now, that is very authoritarian, but it goes back to the fact that that's my Twitch channel, so I can do that. And much like this is Wargaming's game, they can do that as well. I just find some of these terms to be very nebulous, probably by design. Now, this stuff is all, I was going to say this stuff is all, has to be reported, but there could be potentially some automation on this looking for terms. I will say this, though, Wargaming. While I, in general, appreciate this, there are names that show up on your anonymizer that should get you banned from your own game. And they've been reported multiple times, my friends. I'm not gonna say them here. I've seen them reported. I think I even maybe reported them once. But while you're in here doing your thing, being high and mighty, how about you go into your database and you pull out the words that are things that would get me banned? How about you do that? That'd be awesome. I got it. That actually annoys me a little bit. Did it sound like it? All right. Minor game violations. This gets into the physical abuse stuff. This one's pretty funny. 1-day game ban. Each one adds +1, so similar to the misdemeanor up there. And again, they never, oh my gosh, they never result in a permanent ban. Well, we can kind of get to more or less a permanent ban. I mean, if you're a serial criminal and you do, 15, 20, 30 of these, you're getting 15, 20, 30-day bans. That takes you out of the gene pool for a long time. And more than likely, you get bored and move on. So, I don't know. This might work. Let's get into the definitions, though. This is annoying violations that are not direct physical attacks on another player or vehicle. What is isn't the player only the vehicle? Is there anything on a player's vehicle, on a player? Why is it player or vehicle? How does that annoying violations that are not direct physical attacks on another player or vehicle? I don't know what that means, really. So it gives some inclusions, pinging the map repeatedly. So I guess that's where on another player comes in, because you're not annoying his vehicle by pinging the map. Isn't there a cutout on the pings? You can't possibly ping that much anyway. So what is the rule on pinging? 10 every 30 seconds or whatever it'll actually allow you to do. You do 3 in a row or something, it times you out and you're done anyway. So maybe if you spend the whole game waiting for the timeout to go and you keep pinging on a person, maybe, I don't know. Repeatedly. Drowning themselves. Stating in chat and then deliberately AFKing. Stating in chat. Stating in chat. What does that mean? Something like, I assume, hey, this game sucks, or matchmaker, or it's rigged, or I'm not playing this game, or whatever, and then leaving. There's a couple ways to AFK. One is to leave, and that has that little warning thing that you're a deserter, and then you get, I don't remember what it does to you. Don't you get a 7-hour ban or whatever you get when you do that? The other one is just sitting there and letting the game play and walking away and doing something else. Well, how do you know if somebody just had to go to the bathroom or somebody came to the... I mean, what if my mom comes down into the basement and tells me I have to feed the cat? Am I going to get banned? I actually do have a cat. It's pretty awesome. I have a dog too. Dogs are better. I'm just going to throw that out there. Oh, now I've done it. Now I'm banned. Cancel Guido. He hates cats. No, I like cats. I just like dogs better. I like my coffee too. All right. So not really great explanations right there. But I guess I sort of understand where they're going. They had to put something, didn't they? Note, though, that drowning yourself as an arty player will never get you permanently banned, although, like I said, you can get up to a point where you're more or less effectively permanently banned. Okay, now let's get into the felonies. Major game violations. Major game. Physics abuse or unsportsmanlike conduct that directly attacks another player vehicle on your team. Did you know that if you try to turn somebody over that's currently in the water drowning, that if you push him a couple times trying to get him turned over and you don't get him out of that water before he drowns, that goes against you as a kill? Did you know that? I do, because I've tried it before. I've tried to help people. And I got the TK because they drowned in the water. Is it very common? No. Is it causing people massive bans around the game? Probably not. Has anybody actually gone blue because they did it 2 or 3 games in a row? I don't know. I suppose it's possible, not probable kind of idea. But that's the major game violation. Physics abuse or unsportsmanlike conduct. Now, we're going to get into some examples of physics abuse because that's kind of interesting as well. You would think that a lot of that would be in this article, but you got to go to this little clickable link right here to do that. Each violation adds +3 days, so you get a 3-day. Each new one is another 3, up to, what, you do it 7 times. 21 days, I guess, because the 7th one gets you a ban, but you already got a 3 on the first one. So I think math in public, something like that, is either 18 or 21, I guess. And then if you get more than 7 in a quarter, it results in a permanent ban. What quarter? It starts in March. January, February, March. Well, maybe April, May, June. Is it yearly quarter? Is it a fiscal year? Is it some random quarter? Is it a quarter starting on the 23rd? Does that really matter to most of us? Probably not. You're playing the long game, my friends. If you're working your physics abuse and violations such that you don't quite get to 7 for a permanent ban, and then you wait for your next quarter to show up. I suppose that guy is out there, or gal. That person is probably plotting right now, looking at this, because they're gamers. They've made a mini game within the game, and their goal is now to get 6 major game violations and not get the 7th, and then in the next quarter start rolling. Although, what I don't know is, again, one of those things I don't know, because they never go away, is what it says up here. It seems to me then, if you're in your next quarter, now you're at 7, right, or 8, and you're getting all the extra days chucked on top. So that might be something that is going to stop someone from that little mini game within the game. Again, not extremely well defined. All right, on this link, you will find ways to report a chat violation, a game violation, and then how to appeal in case you get attacked. Yeah, there may be, and I know I've heard of people doing it, legitimate reasons why you could appeal. This goes back to a little bit what I was talking about on profanity insults. I didn't say this earlier, but we've got regions in World of Tanks. You've got EU, RU, NA, and Asia. The different areas have slightly different cultures, or very different cultures, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. But mores and morals and the way they do things, it is a lot more, I guess, insulting in RU, from my understanding. I know EU is a little more wild than NA is in terms of chat stuff. Just, you have more countries, you have more angst between countries, things like that. So I think it's a little looser, potentially there. I don't know if this is going to tighten that up a little bit, but that does allow some wiggle room in the regions for local staff to kind of work through some of these things. So that's how you report somebody. Let's just jump in here real quick on the knowledge base article, and we'll be done talking about the new sheriff in town. In-game physics abuse can be characterized by any intentional action taken to physically move a friendly tank into an unfavorable position. Okay. Examples. Probably not all, although it doesn't necessarily say that. Pushing an ally into line of fire. I think we can all agree with that. That looks fairly obvious most of the time. Like, you get right behind them and you push. It's not the accidental bump or whatever. However, if we go back to minor infractions, what if I do bump somebody out? I just didn't see them there. Turns, I'm looking somewhere else. I mean, even if the turn's not looking somewhere else, I could be looking at the dog or whatever's going on around me. I mean, there's a bazillion reasons. Can I catch a point for that? I think so. Pushing an ally over or off of terrain, also fairly obvious. I can see situations where you would be both working an edge and you would accidentally or maybe get shoved by an enemy that then you shove him off. There's a lot of little possibilities there. Is there an epidemic of that in the game? Probably not, but that's an example. Flipping or attempting to flip an allied vehicle onto its side. Okay. Usually that seems fairly obvious as well. It takes a while to do that. Stirves are kind of famous for being able to do some of those kinds of things. Either to flip people or be flipped. Blocking or pushing a teammate from leaving water, drowning a teammate. That's the one that got me. And I've probably had that happen, I would say, in the last 4 years or whatever it is since they started the automatic system, which may be less than 4 at this point. Maybe 2 or 3 times that's happened to me. Has it ever caused me to go blue or anything? No, I haven't had that much trouble. But I did get the team kill off of it. So in theory, that could be a strike, right? And a day ban. In theory, I could get a day ban from that right there. Blocking a teammate's shot, okay? Used to be an issue with people putting their gun barrels right in front of artillery guns and killing the artillery. I don't know if that works anymore. I think they stopped that. So now blocking a teammate from retreating from an unfavorable position or moving towards an objective. Well, that's kind of interesting. I mean, how do you know it was on purpose? I've been in a position, somebody has pushed forward too far, and then they want to back into the position I was already in. They went around me, pushed in, now they're backing up, and they want me to get out of my position so they can then take it and get away. Well, no. So am I going to get a strike for that? Possibly. A relapse. When I relapse for my criminality. Pushing a teammate out of an objective area, cap circle, repair circle, and front line. Yeah, I've seen that happen. That's usually fairly obvious, not very often accidental, but could be. And then intentional destruction of your own vehicle. Now, if you've ever watched me play, and I've featured these a lot on Miserable Monday or just in gameplay in general, when I think a game is won, I love to jump off cliffs and land on people. I don't always make that hit, and generally I also die when that happens. Intentional destruction of my own vehicle. You know, you like to think that somebody goes, ooh, I don't like Guido doing that. I'm going to send in my ticket. You'd like to think the person on the other end looks at it and goes, no, he was just having a good time. He was playing a pixel tank game, trying to have fun. But is it not, according to this example, an intentional destruction of my own vehicle? So is there wiggle room? Hell, I don't know. I can't know, right? That's one of those I can't know. I can't know until somebody complains and I get a day ban because I jumped my tank off the edge of a cliff. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. Probably not. But there you go, folks. The new updated rules and violations policy 2022. As I said at the beginning, I think 99% of you will never interact with this system on the bad side. Maybe it's more like 99.9 who watch my channel on the bad side. You may interact, or maybe a higher percentage who interact with it in terms of making these complaints right here. But that's the system, the new one. What I really don't know is how much of that is automated, if any of it. They do give you the links to actually physically hand jam in a complaint. But how much of this is somehow automated? Will I receive a strike, a relapse, for trying to help somebody turn over in a river and getting caught by the automatic system saying that I now have a TK? Right? That's a one-day ban from what I can tell. Although it could be a major game violation because that is this, right? Over here. Drowning an ally. So if I drown an ally, trying to help them, and the game goes, TK on Guido. So sad. Boom, I have a major game violation, a 3-day ban, and a strike that never goes away. A relapse. I think that's where this comes in. Appeal the sanction. But you don't know, right? You don't know. And nothing in here really indicates how they're going to arbitrate it. That's what's always missing from these things. Especially when you get into this kind of term right here. How exactly is it arbitrated? You can't know. You're not allowed to know. New sheriff in town, folks. I think it's much like the old sheriff. Just slightly new system. They did spell out what the ban times are. There is a effort, I think, here to let people know what the ramifications of being uncivil are in World of Tanks. I think that's all good. A lot of my complaints are things that really can't be fixed, because once they start typing down exactly every single little thing, people will find a way around it. So that means that there is still the ability for appealing, and there should be hopefully a little bit of contextual disagreement, I guess, the ability to argue your point and maybe not get the strike or the ban. Although I would say if you got banned for a day, by the time you did this, all you're really probably going to get out of it is to get the relapse taken off, because you've probably already served your time. I would also say, much like somebody who has a criminal charge against them, if you are not a career criminal, you're probably much better off. So it's your first one. you're probably going to get a lot more out of your appeal than if it's your 7th or 8th. But that just makes logical sense. All right, guys, that's all I've got for today. That was a lot of time talking about this. I just thought it was interesting. It's always an interesting discussion with stuff like this because it definitely goes a lot of different ways. And it is fascinating to me how many people take this stuff and they're hard and fast. They know exactly what all these mean, right? In their heart of hearts, oh yeah, this is very clear. I know exactly what all this means. But just understand that's what it means to you, not to everybody. All right. That's all I've got, guys. See you later.